Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are doing chapter 5 of the Tao Te Ching, which is Cultivating Emptiness. So, just as we've been talking about the idea of non-action and not doing, the master does nothing, so he leaves nothing undone. The idea that, everything is relative, so by doing nothing, you are kind of doing exactly what you should be doing. It's definitely one of the harder aspects of Taoism to understand or get your head around. I think largely because we take a very proactive approach in life, or many of us do. Many of us take this approach where, we need to be learning, constantly growing, constantly achieving, striving for our goals. We're trying to make money. We're trying to find the happiness. We are trying to aggressively pursue these things. But Taoism provides the counterclaim or the counter argument that actually you don't need to do that. The happiness comes from within, and so by not doing anything and just learning to appreciate where you are, what the universe is doing, and basically to be a happy spectator or a happy traveler, you are truly achieving what you're trying to achieve. I was listening to a podcast recently where a guy was talking about how it's crazy that in today's world, we subtract our current happiness for the pursuit of future happiness. So if you have a goal in mind of, I want to be happy, you are sacrificing being happy in this moment or in this space to try and pursue happiness in the future. So if you're chasing money or wealth or fame or whatever, you are sacrificing your ability to be happy in the present, in the happiness of being one with the universe, being one with all that there is of beauty and joy and appreciation. And you're saying, I won't be happy until I'm over here and I've reached my goal. That's a hedonistic treadmill or a hedonic treadmill, because you're never going to get to a place where you're happy. Potentially, where you are right now was where you wanted to be 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you might have looked at your life now and you would have been like, oh my gosh, you've achieved so much. You've done everything. Aren't you happy? No, because we're chasing this hedonistic treadmill and we're constantly trying to achieve, well, if I just get to this point, then I will be happy. And that's not how life works. You need to learn to cultivate happiness and content in the present. And so that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about embracing emptiness, is embracing just who you are right now in this moment and appreciating that life will change. Things change. We grow old, we disappear. But to be able to appreciate in the moment what you're doing or where you are in life and the things you have, that I believe is embracing emptiness. So I'm going to read the verse and then we're going to get into it a little bit. Cultivating emptiness. The cosmos obeys its own rules and has no inclination to benevolence. It treats creation like ritual objects to be used according to their purpose. The wise man obeys his own rules and has no natural inclination to benevolence. He treats the people like ritual objects to be used according to their purpose. Is the cosmos not like a pair of bellows? Bellows are empty, but inexhaustible, and the more they are worked, the more they produce. The more we try to define, the more we diminish. Far better to cherish unspoken inner understanding. So I hope my little blurb at the beginning kind of makes a little more sense. I want to touch on a few things because there's a lot of concepts in this short little verse. I think I'll just start with the top and we'll work our way down. The cosmos obeys its own rules and has no inclination to benevolence. What I like to think of this as is like moral relativism. So 200 years ago in America, it was okay to legally own somebody, like a human being. And today that is absolutely unacceptable. And even though some people can claim, well, that is morally unacceptable no matter what time period, and that's valid, you can also argue that times change And who are we to say that we stand on the moral high ground? There's a lot of talk in our world today about people not people not achieving the correct moral ideology. It's like, oh, well, these people are immoral. But you're using your own framework from your own experience, your own upbringing, your own understanding. And 500 years from now, human beings might have a totally different set of moral hierarchy that we base stuff on. And so the idea that there are these universal moral teachings, that's not true. The cosmos obeys its own rules and it has no inclination towards benevolence. Just because you think something is moral now doesn't mean that in 500 years it will be exactly the opposite, and the moral thing to do is the exact opposite of what you're thinking. So basically, it's just asking that you check yourself before you assume that you have the moral high ground or that you understand, and realize that the universe is just going to go on regardless of what you think it should do or what you think it's going to do. The idea that we can create a proper framework that helps us understand the universe, that's ridiculous. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. You cannot put a normative framework. You can't put a name on how the universe works. You can come up with things that help you navigate it. You can come up with roadmaps, but those roadmaps are ever changing. It's not like the universe doesn't constantly move around. So it'd be like trying to build a map for a group of islands that are constantly moving around. Your map is going to be wrong every time you write it down. By the time you're done, it's not the same. These islands are forever moving. And so the idea that, oh, the universe moves towards benevolence or moves toward justice, no, like these are just your frameworks put onto it, and they're not gonna line up. So it's basically just saying, it's not possible to create some kind of perfect framework that helps you explain the world, or there isn't some kind of framework that's going to make you the most morally perfect human being. There isn't one philosophy that just explains everything for you. That's not a thing. You have to understand that it's not going to work. The next one I want to sort of do is the wise man obeys his own rules and has no natural inclination to benevolence. So this is like what I was saying, is it is okay to have a loose roadmap or a set of principles that you guide yourself by. So there's basically two different ideas of how you can navigate the universe, or how you navigate life. I should say it like that. There are people that decide to create a very rigid roadmap, a very specific map of where everything is, how I get there, what I'm doing, and that roadmap is not going to work in every single situation you have in life. It is not going to work. There are going to be situations that completely twist your moral framework, that make you feel so counteractive to what you believe. You're going to do things in life that you just completely disagree with, or you don't know why you did this, or, and so the idea that you have to have this specific roadmap, that doesn't work. What does work is having a set of loose principles that you can apply to your life, that make your life better, that make you happier, that help you understand the way. And in my view, Taoism is one of those practices, because Taoism doesn't specifically say you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to go to church on Sunday, you have to, it's just giving you a framework of, in general, we have no control over the universe. And so it is best to be flexible, be soft, be malleable, be able to encounter situations and slide over them like water over a rock, instead of trying to break through the rock every single time, because that's not going to work. And so having no natural inclination to benevolence essentially just means emptiness. Just allow yourself to come to the natural progression of where you need to go when you need to go there. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then the last three lines talk about bellows. So if you don't know, basically a fundamental version of a bellows is a type of, you can think of it like a pump or something. We don't really have a lot of bellows in our daily lives now, but what a bellows would do is it's like a pump that you can press and it will push air into a fire to make a fire burn hotter or more intensely. That's one version of a bellows. And the idea behind this is the cosmos not like a pair of bellows? Bellows are empty but inexhaustible, and the more they are worked, the more they produce. And it's basically the idea of an instrument that can just work in perpetuity. Perpetuity? It can continually work. Sorry, my language is clearly not working today. But a bellows can produce as long as it's a working thing. You can produce and you pump air into a fire, or you help to propel something. And so essentially the universe is just propelling all of itself, essentially. And so it's kind of an interesting metaphor, but it's trying to get around the idea, and it's trying to give you the idea that the universe is inexhaustible, the universe is endless, and it's empty. A bellows is empty. And later on in Taoism, they talk about, is the house the important part of the thing, or is it the space inside this house? So even though the walls and the windows and the doors and the roof are the things that make the house a house, you never actually use those things. You use the space inside of it. You live in the space like here, which is empty. And which part of this thing is more important? Is it the emptiness, or is it the actual structure of the thing? And Taoists would argue that the emptiness of a thing is what makes it important and inexhaustible, and infinite, because the universe is infinite. So that's basically what it's trying to talk about, is cultivating emptiness is just not coming to something with a huge amount of framework and a huge amount of preconceived notions and ideas and concepts, allowing yourself to be in the moment and to be empty. There'll be lots of chapters that we go on through here that talk about being an idiot or being an empty-minded person, and how that is probably better than having all of this anxiety and worry and knowledge. And it's far better to go through life as a simple-minded traveler, just taking everything in and not necessarily leaving your mark on things, not necessarily stamping your flag into the sand and claiming a place as your own. It's all about sort of just empty enjoyment and reflection. And I know that sounds really strange, especially from like a Western society point of view, where we need to have lots of things and we need to wear lots of nice fancy stuff and all of these kinds of concepts. But it just comes down to cultivating that emptiness, which is the title of this one. And then finally, the last line of this: the more we try to define, the more we diminish. Far better to cherish unspoken inner understanding. So as much as I can explain these things and try and break them down for you, only you are going to be able to understand these concepts yourself. Like if I tried to sit you down and explain the concept of love, if you've never loved anybody, or you've never had a connection with, I don't know, a dog, or you've loved a plant or whatever, you might love a piece of music. If you don't have the experience necessary to understand the concept, there is nothing I can do to explain it to you in a way that you're then going to understand it. And so by defining something, by giving something a name, you are diminishing it. And that is why the first line of the Tao Te Ching is, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. Because once you give something a name, you are putting it in a box. Whereas if it's just left as a concept of like, well, you kind of have to come to your own interpretation of what the Tao is. There are billions of videos that are trying to explain a concept, and you can't quite explain it. I could try and explain this book to you in total detail and give you examples and everything, but unless you're able to apply it to your own life and apply it to your own feelings and emotions and develop your own idea of what the Tao is, there's nothing I can do. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's that kind of concept. So if I tried to explain a concept to you in a huge amount of detail, You might get a rough estimate of what's going on and what this thing is, but you can never truly understand it until you take that leap of understanding it yourself. And then you aren't able to explain it to the next person. And so that's kind of what's amazing about this, is that this is like a 2,500-year-old manual of wisdom, and it's just giving you the framework. It cannot give you the full understanding. As much as scholars like to say, oh my gosh, Lao Tzu, he was just the most amazing genius wisdom scholar, whatever, or the several people that they think actually wrote this, just a dude, not important in this story at all. A lot of historians and people get so hung up on the historical figure, and they forget that the actual concepts that are being taught have nothing to do with, a famous person or ideology or any of this stuff. It's just trying to get people to be able to understand the way the universe is working. And that's basically what we're doing. And the last little bit, far better to cherish unspoken inner understanding. Yes, so that is so incredibly true. My understanding of Tao is a very personal one. I have a deep connection to this idea. I feel at one with the universe. There are moments throughout my day where I take a deep breath and I tell myself that I am one with the universe. And for me, that is my meaning. That is my deep spiritual belief. And it is very unshakable. It is very personal. It gives me a level of comfort that I can't explain in words. And it's relaxing. And a lot of the time it's just empty. Like my brain will just go completely empty. I won't be thinking about anything. I'll have this simple concept of being one with the universe in my head. And I feel connected to everything around me. And so for me, Taoism is this great comfort, guiding light. It helps me understand my moral framework, but it doesn't tell me exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not telling me, like I said before, you got to go to church on Sunday, you got to do this, don't eat fish on this day, don't do this. It's not telling me those things. I have to develop my framework myself. And like at the beginning of the verse, I try to keep my framework pretty loose, because you will constantly encounter situations throughout your life that test your resolve, test your moral framework. And so if you can keep your moral framework soft and malleable and changeable and flexible, it's going to work much better than a very rigid, hard thing that kind of clanks and it hits the corners of these different things awkwardly, and it doesn't quite fit through certain doors or certain avenues that you're going to encounter. So just be flexible, be malleable, be empty. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that helps. I hope it doesn't make it worse, but who knows? I don't have control over it, and we don't have control over anything. So hopefully that's a relieving thought to you and not a terrifying one. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.